Should you spend time private labeling hot opportunities, or should you spend your time building your brand? That's a question that I get asked often, and today on the Amazon Seller Podcast, we're going to talk about it.
This is the Amazon Seller Podcast, hosted by multi-million-dollar Amazon sellers helping you launch your private label business to the next level. Find us on amazingfreedom.com or subscribe to this podcast on iTunes and YouTube.
All right, welcome to all you Amazon sellers and future Amazon sellers. My name is Nathan Slamans, and I am excited to be here today with Andy Slamans and Leron Hirschkorn to bring you the first ever episode of the Amazon Seller Podcast. In today's episode, we're going to talk to you about a topic that our students usually ask whenever they're getting started with their private label journey, right? Should I focus on building a private label brand, or should I jump on some of the hot private label opportunities that I see? So today we're going to talk about some of the benefits of each of these and what our personal focus is on this topic. So I'm just going to go ahead and hand it over to Andy Slamans. And Andy, why don't you tell us what your opinion is when it comes to building a brand versus jumping on hot opportunities?
Sure. Thanks, Nate. Yeah. So, I think that there are a few different ways, right, that Amazon sellers make money on Amazon when it comes to selling physical product. There's a number of them that will do what I call widget selling, basically, buying products at a low price and selling them at a higher price, right? Like what's been happening since the beginning of time. And there are other sellers on Amazon that are actually focused on building a brand. And so, they've come up with their own brand, and they're probably building out a product line. And a lot of times their goal is to eventually be able to sell that brand off of Amazon. And so to me, that's like that's the perfect business. If you can build your own brand and build a product line under your name, that's a great way to go. And so what I tell everybody is like, that should be the goal of every Amazon seller, is to be able to build your own brand. What do you think, Ron?
Yeah, so we're talking about two ways to approach your business, right? One is the way that a lot of us are looking for products, right? We're not necessarily saying, I want to build a brand of, the best kitchen utensils there is in the world. We kind of look for using tools like Jungle Scout or just looking through the Amazon catalog, and we're looking to find those opportunities. And then a second philosophy is to focus on a sort of niche and build a brand around that. What I found when I started was that I started out by finding those opportunities to jump on where I thought you can make the most money. But one of the things that I did is, once I found those opportunities, I looked to see, okay, is this an opportunity that I can build a brand around? So I found that sort of item that I can exploit in Amazon, where there's more opportunity than there is supply for the product, more demand, and then see if I can then move to building a brand around that product. So it's kind of a combination of both strategies. I would say I have a few lines of products, and it kind of started out with just finding an opportunity. But with some of those, it evolved, or it's still evolving, into saying, okay, well, now that I found this hot opportunity based on rank and based on exploiting, just a random product, is there an opportunity to build a brand around it? Sometimes there is, and sometimes there isn't. But I think building a brand, if you can find a way to build a brand around something and expand, then you could build customer base, loyalty, and then yes, eventually go off of Amazon to have related products. Because if you just have 10 random products in different categories, then it's going to be hard to build that as a website off of Amazon.
Now, Leron, you come from the retail arbitrage and online arbitrage world. That's how you started your Amazon business. That's really what led you to where you're at now. Why don't you talk to me about, and actually for that matter, Andy and I did the same thing. We started with retail arbitrage and online arbitrage. But why don't you just tell me, and Andy, you as well, does that help you in making decisions as well?
Yeah, so I started out with retail arbitrage, and I think that's it's a very good way to start because it really taught me to understand the Amazon catalog. So, starting out with retail arbitrage allowed me to learn just about bestseller rank, about the different categories. It allowed me to learn about the buy box, and just in terms of how to sell on Amazon, it gives you a good foundation. So, I don't think that you need to start out with anything other than private label. If you're just getting started and you want to go straight into private label, you can. But starting out with retail arbitrage did give me a good foundation, and also allowed me to get some insight into some categories and what products were popular, what's selling, what's not selling, what to try to avoid. My evolution to private label was really an interest in saying, okay, I want to scale my business, and I don't necessarily want to be out in stores all day, and there's only so much I could do myself. So I'm either going to have to hire other shoppers to go out and buy for me, or I'm going to have to find a way to scale where I'm not just buying if they have 20 units of something in the store, where I'm not just buying 20 units of something, but where I have the ability to have products that I can keep reordering, at clips of 500 or 1,000. And so it led me to look into wholesale. And then I quickly realized that I'm building other people's business, and I can just as well make the same products I'm wholesaling in China myself. And so that led me into going to private label. But retail arbitrage did give me a good insight into what categories were popular on Amazon and how Amazon worked in terms of bestseller rank. And I still see people who are doing retail and online arbitrage and seeing like a product that is doing very well, but there's maybe only one seller for that product on Amazon, and then they're going out and private labeling a similar item because they know they've sold the product, they know it's already doing well, and they have an opportunity to private label it. So I think retail or online arbitrage can give you good insights into some potential private label ideas, and really same with wholesale, right? You can go to a wholesale trade show and walk down the aisles and just get ideas for private label products.
Here's, I think, what's great about building your brand on Amazon. Amazon's such a powerful marketplace. It can be a launch pad, right, for anyone that wants to build a brand. In fact, Amazon has their own program, right? It's called Launchpad, where, if you enlist in that, it actually helps you, bring your product to market. But if you come up with a good product, like you said, Liron, that there is more demand than there is supply, and you have a quality product, you can use Amazon as your launch pad, right, to really get your product moving, get it out there, and then begin to either build variations on it or to, continue to build a line off of it. And it really all is because of how powerful the Amazon sales channel is.
Right. And, one of the things that I've noticed in terms of finding those opportunities is, and going back to retail arbitrage or online arbitrage, sometimes I'll walk into a Costco to do shopping, and I'll walk up and down the aisles. And I used to do retail arbitrage at Costco. And so, but you can walk down, whether it's Costco or a wholesale trade show, and say, wow, that's a really cool product. You quickly look on your phone and kind of see if it exists on Amazon, take a look at the bestseller rank, take a look at how many sellers, and say, there's an opportunity for me to import that product and make it myself, and maybe even make some improvements to it. So I think having that background is helpful, or having the mindset that you can go find opportunities, at wholesale trade shows. Like even if you're a private label seller, going to wholesale trade shows could be a good idea just to find good product ideas, or to potentially speak to those wholesale suppliers to see if they are willing to private label for you under your own brand.
Awesome. Now, Andy, so, your focus is on building a brand. It sounds like Liron too. But you do have some maybe one-off products that you private label that are just hot opportunities. Is that right?
I do. If the margin is there, right, and the opportunity is there, I'm not going to pass it up.
Yeah.
I won't sell, anything that's going to make me money. However, more and more, I want to focus on what my brand is and building out that brand. And again, think about like how hard it was even, 20 or 30 years ago. If you came up with a product, you had to march in the stores or, march into the buyers of these stores and get your product out there. I tell the story a lot. I met this guy who created his own salsa, and he was setting up a little sample table, at a local grocery store, and he had been on the road for 30 days, going to various grocery stores every day, trying to sell this, homemade salsa that he had made. And that's how he was trying to make it happen. And then you fast forward to kind of what Ron and I do, where we come up with a product, we have our brand on it, and then we can put it in front of millions of customers, and then through different strategies, be able to land that on the first or second page of search. And then your brand just starts automatically kind of going. And again, to me, that's just the incredible part about being able to sell on Amazon and build a brand.
Kind of hearing Andy talk about, his sort of main strategy is branding, but he'll take on that opportunity. It's kind of like if you're an investor in the stock market, right? You might have a portfolio and you're a long-term investor, right? You're buying stocks, your philosophy is buying and holding. But then, a good friend of yours comes to you and says, listen, this is a small cap. This is a new emerging company. And in the next 6 months, there's a really good opportunity to make money with this stock. And so you might say, you know what, I'm going to put some money towards that stock and kind of turn it over quickly and make some money. And it's kind of the same thing with the opportunities. My long-term goal is to really build a brand, build it on Amazon and then off Amazon, be able to do some branding where I can charge higher prices and differentiate myself. But at the same time, if a hot opportunity comes along, I'm not necessarily going to pass it up, but it's not my main focus. So if there's a trending item, Andy and I can talk about the watch your mouth game that, if you're familiar with, there was, hot game during the past years, but watch your mouth, where you put this sort of cheek retractor in your mouth and it makes it difficult to understand what you're saying. And so family members or people have to guess what you're saying. And we've seen a lot of private label sellers sell just the accessories for that game. And that's one of those hot opportunities type of items that you could just, in a matter of 6 months or a year, make a good amount of money with, and then it kind of goes away. But so that's an opportunity I wouldn't necessarily pass on, but that's kind of like the quick turnover stock market trade versus the long-term buy and hold strategy of branding.
And that can be tough to balance sometimes, right? So what's the difficult decision you have is it all comes down to your time, right? You only have so much time. So do you focus your time and your money, right? You only have so much capital to invest in products, most of us at least. So it really comes down to, are you going to be focusing on building your brand or focusing or really giving some of your time up to jump on these hot opportunities, which can be great. So it really just comes down to how good of an opportunity is for you, it sounds like. But like Andy mentioned, more and more now, he may be passing up some of these opportunities because he'd rather just focus on building his brand.
Right.
If I'm hearing you right.
Yeah. And I mean, sometimes I'll come across something almost by accident, like by doing product research in my own niche, or by, just looking at Amazon and looking at bestsellers. And, sometimes we'll pass up on it. Andy and I actually, we have found some opportunities that we've said doesn't really fit in with our niche. And what we've done in those cases is we've actually sold a couple of product ideas to other people. So one of the things that you can do is, if you're focused on building a brand and you find something, maybe you find a partner and say, hey, I found this great idea, you focus, you run with it. I'll be a, 30% investor in it, or I'll just be an investor in this. And then you launch the product and you run with it and you do all the effort. But I found the idea, and form some kind of partnership, or if some other seller, maybe sell the idea to a friend or something. And maybe there's still ways to monetize it without necessarily putting in a lot of money or time into it, which, can sort of bring us to the question of, is it worth partnering? I know Andy partners with a lot of sellers, and a lot of private label sellers want to own the buy box and don't necessarily think about partnering with somebody on a product where the two of you share the buy box. But I know Andy can probably talk about his experience in terms of partnering with other sellers and whether it's worth it or not.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big believer in partnerships. And I think specifically for private label products. So these are some of the reasons why I partner. One is Amazon can be an interesting marketplace to sell on, because they can really shut you down at any moment, right? And so if I'm partnering with somebody else, and it can be for silly reasons, and most of the time, if it is for a silly reason, you can get reinstated. But if you're partnering with someone, you're sharing the buy box, and my account were to, temporarily get suspended, that partner is still going to continue selling through those products. And so, you're not going to lose rank, and your sales velocity is going to remain the same. So that's one reason. Another one is if it's a newer product, you have to put out less capital. And so, if you're partnering with somebody, you're both probably going to go in half. And so you need a lot less capital to go out. And then my favorite part partnering with other people is they see things in the listing sometimes that I don't see, and vice versa. I'll see things that they don't see. And so, just thinking recently on a listing that I have, they made a suggestion on a different photo, right, that we could put in that listing. And so we did change it, and sure enough, conversions went up. And so, being able to have another set of eyes, I think, on your listing can be extremely helpful as well. So yeah, I love partnerships.
Yeah, and that's a great topic, and I'm sure we'll have a whole upcoming show on just partnerships because it's such an important topic and something that, as Andy just said, we feel that more people probably should be interested or looking into just because those reasons he gave and many more. Liron, we talked a little bit about an example of a hot topic. You talked about that watch your mouth game or something like that. Can you give me a couple factors or things that you feel like make a product more of something that you could build a brand around, more brandability, I guess? What are the things that you look for when you find a particular product or niche that makes you feel like, wow, this is something that isn't just a hot opportunity, it's something that I can really build a brand around?
Right. So yeah, so definitely looking at Amazon and looking at the product, you can get ideas for things around this. So for example, are there accessories that could be used with this product? Can this product come in different sizes, in different colors? Are there things that are, very closely related? Is this kind of like a targeted niche? So let's say, for example, that I was looking at like a knife, right? For example, and let's say this was kind of a Japanese knife or something, right? There's probably a whole bunch of other sort of Japanese or Asian type of cooking utensils or things like a wok, right? Or knife or sushi set or all the things that are related that you can say, okay, I'm going to build a brand around, Japanese cooking material, supplies. Or, is this kind of a niche category that has potential, has demand, and, where I can build a brand around, as opposed to saying like, an accessory for this game, which is very specific and probably not something I can build a game around, not something I can build a brand around. Unless you build unless your brand is accessories for popular games, which you can then become a brand that sells accessories, additional accessories for games that are popular, right? You're going to sell dice and extra things for popular games. That could work too. But really looking at the Amazon catalog, seeing customers who buy this also bought this. What else are customers buying, and saying, is there a niche? I think the more you can niche down into something very niche specific and not general, the more opportunity you have to build a brand around it. So, instead of thinking about, a mug, you could think about beer steins, right? And what I like about opportunities for brands is I like the opportunity where you can build a lot of different designs and looks to something. So if you think about a beer stein, for example, there's hundreds of different designs, right, of beer steins and sizes and colors and what you could do with it. So to me, that could be a brand. So, the more you can make changes and customize and add designs, the more opportunity I think you have as far as like building a brand around something.
Now, are you also considering the time frame elements or longevity of how viable that product may be? Something like a particular game accessory that's currently trending or hot might not be popular a year from now, whereas a knife or some kind of cooking utensil is likely going to be used for maybe hundreds of years, right? So that also is something that you're considering when you're looking at products, correct?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And that's a good point it's a good question to ask yourself, right? When you're looking at a product. And, a big question that I ask is there a known brand that sort of dominates this category. So if I asked you, baby diapers, what's a brand? You would say Huggies or Pampers, right? You think of a brand right away in your head. So that means you should not go after that as a private label item. People immediately associate a major brand with it. But if I told you beer stein, you don't know any, right? I don't know any brands that sell beer steins personally. Maybe there are. Or if I told you, Japanese knife, maybe in there, somebody who's really an expert in that area might know some brands, but probably the general consumer looking for a sushi knife or something to that extent probably wouldn't. So that's also a good question to ask, is this sort of a brand? Can you immediately think of a brand when thinking about this category or this niche? And yeah, definitely, I wouldn't be interested in building a brand around something that I thought was gonna, only be viable for a year. But, going back to the point about the accessory for the watch your mouth game, you could become a brand that offers, cheaper or just accessories for games that, think about, and again, some of it might be protected, but think about like the game of Risk, right? It comes with like several colors of army, right? And you lose one, right? What do? Well, I've had that happen in the past. I go on eBay and I buy it from somebody, but there could be a whole category of selling, like evergreen type games, Monopoly, Risk, all those types of games, and selling accessories. Again, I haven't looked into the infringement or the patent there, so I'm not saying that's something you should do, but it's a kind of example where if I thought about how can I build a brand around that idea of an accessory for watch your mouth, then I would think about going into the game accessory sort of niche if that was something I was going to do.
All right. Andy, I know you've talked to me before excitedly or with passion about what you have hopes to do with some of your private label brands. Can you just go over maybe like the difference, if you just have a hot product, it's only going to last a couple of months, there's only so much you can do in that time frame. But some of your brands, I mean, you have big plans for. Why don't you just go over a little bit like some of your, goals of what you can do with some of the brands that you have?
Yep, sure. So my main brand is actually it's a really functional product, and what's been cool for me at least is being able to see customer reactions to the product, and read the reviews on Amazon. I've spent a lot of time working hard on the quality of my product, and so I think that's probably why in this particular niche I'm at the top. I actually put in the extra work to make sure that my product was really good quality. And so that to me is exciting, being able to provide a product that meets somebody's need. And so I just want to continue to build it out. And, maybe someday down the road, there's folks that have actually built brands on Amazon and they sell them. And so, basically I think the rate right now is you can sell it for 1.5 and sometimes even 2 times what your sales are, what your profit is. And so, that's definitely a goal probably a lot of people have that build a brand. And that's intriguing to me, as long as the sales continue to grow.
Yeah. And I know with your brand, even Andy, I think there's an opportunity for you to try to get into retail, right? Even, with that brand, and there's opportunities that are beyond Amazon. Retail, I think, is a totally different beast of trying to get into some major stores, and there's issues with them not, taking 90 days to pay, and there's different challenges that come with it. But I think some of your products and your niche products, there's opportunities that you can think about going off of Amazon through an e-commerce site and potentially through retail. One plan I have for one of my brands is not necessarily to go crazy trying to get into big box stores, but going to a trade show and actually having a booth there and selling maybe to, smaller types of stores where it's easy to get into those accounts. And I'm not necessarily giving them terms off the bat to pay me. And so there's a lot of potential, when you build a brand to, you are protecting yourself in a sense from some of the pitfalls of Amazon, like suspension. If Amazon were to, if Amazon booted me from Amazon tomorrow forever, I would take all my private label brands and I would, I would take them to trade shows and try to sell them wholesale. And I could wholesale them to other Amazon sellers that I know for them to sell on Amazon. I could wholesale them for people with other e-commerce stores and wholesale them to stores. So I think there's, potential if you're building a brand versus just a product opportunity. You're a little bit more protected in terms of your potential risks.
Awesome. And that's just so exciting to think about, the challenges that we would have had just a few years going straight from building a new brand to trying to get it, into a box store or retail store would have been, huge, enormous, right? You had to have, tons of capital and connections in a lot of cases. But now with our ability to launch products on Amazon, really with, pretty low barriers of entry when we think of it, especially when you use, a lot of techniques that we have to really boost and launch your product quickly, you can really shorten the curve and funny enough, go full circle to potentially be thinking about going to a retail store, but not having to. You kind of have that option, right? Once it comes down, once you start with it.
Right. And what I love about Amazon is that you really can compete with, you can compete. People often ask, should you compete against Amazon if Amazon is selling something? And I think absolutely yes, because Amazon doesn't always do a great job with their listings. Sometimes I see one or two images. The bullet points aren't that great. They talk mostly features, but not benefits. And absolutely you can compete against Amazon, and you can compete against some brands, because I think more and more today, consumers, when they're looking at Amazon, are looking for, pricing, and they're looking at reviews. And if a brand has crappy reviews and I have great reviews, I have an opportunity to get to sale even against the brand. It doesn't mean I want to go into heavily brand dominated areas where brands have thousands of reviews and, really good reviews. The big benefit on Amazon and going to private label is you can compete against brands, because I think consumers today are less and less brand driven and more category driven. They're looking for a specific product. They're looking for reviews from other people. And, and that's why the Amazon verified reviews are, so important. And, we have an opportunity to build a brand and really compete especially if you have a good quality product.
Yeah, awesome. Well, that's going to wrap up today's show. Basically, there are a ton of different ways that you can run your private label business on Amazon, right? Some people choose to go after hot opportunities that they can jump on early and do well with. Others choose to focus on building their brands. And of course, you can mix and match and do a little bit of both. It sounds like Andy and Liran going forward are going to be more and more focused on building their brands, because that's what is going to set them up for long-term success in their opinions. All right, well, that's going to do it for today in our first episode here on the Amazon Seller Podcast. Do you have a specific question or topic that you would like us to cover here on the show? Well, you can let us know. Visit amazingfreedom.com/ask. That's /ASK, and we may feature a future show based on your question. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and iTunes so that you can catch all the latest from us to help you grow your Amazon business.
You've been listening to the Amazon Seller Podcast. Make sure to subscribe and join us next time for another look at how to dominate the Amazon marketplace.